know people's names. That's what tells me that it has to be a lot more to this.
Right. And what's interesting too is that, and I know there are cases out there where they say that they're these famous people, but there are a lot of cases where they say that they are just an ordinary person like you or me from 1930s, 1800s, or different time, just depending on which case you're talking about. And like the kid Ryan Hammonds, he was pointing to this Marty Martin guy who was in the picture. Of course, they didn't know the name at the time. He was a no-name extra in a movie, and he was an agent for the stars. Not a famous person, not a famous actor, actress, or anything like that. He was pointing to somebody that was very hard to identify.
And what year was that been when he would have been that extra and that agent? What time frame?
That would have been about 1932, I believe, somewhere around there, because that was, I said the movie earlier, but it was a 1932 movie, and at least in that time frame, and is it Night to Remember, or
well, the point is that there would have been no way for that kid or child to realize, about that guy. He's been married 5 times. He was in the movies, and all this stuff. I mean, that it just tells me that I don't know. And I'm just wondering too, when these kids come out in childs and say that I was this person during that time frame, are they still that person till the age 7 or age 8 or age 6? And do they make the transition to whatever? I'm just wondering. What do you think, Michael?
Well, it's fascinating to me that Richard is actually creating a novel, basically a love story, and using these characters to kind of explore all of these things that we must have to deal with if we have children like this. And pretty much, this is not just, I don't think, an isolated thing. I think pretty much everyone, I've raised 4 children myself. And every time during their life at one point, they all kind of make some strange comments that you can consider outside of their realm of actual experience, and you wonder where they get them from. So I would like to ask Richard how he decides to develop his characters in the book, and also how do his characters deal with the growing realization, I guess, as they grow up after their second or their different life coming around, that they have had a past life. Is that something you kind of develop in your characters, and they kind of finally come to that realization?
I did develop that in my characters, and I did it differently for the boy who was reincarnated and the girl who was reincarnated. I had the boy waking up with nightmares of, in the midst of nightmares at age 2, 3, 4, 5, of this girl with age 6, this girl, pretty girl, in an automobile accident, and he could just see the blood rushing from her, and he realized that she was special to him in the past life. And at some point, as the dreams play on and on and on through time, he realizes they were married in a past life. And so I have him, it kind of comes to him through his dreams. And, and then how the parents deal with it, I deal with that differently for the different sets of families as well. For the girl, I have her feeling that she's missing something. She doesn't know what she's missing. And, but she's just not happy like she should be. And, but but there's something that might turn that around later if those two can meet. And so I have her just kind of struggling with who she really is, and then him just dreaming about it. Going, the mother being very concerned, the father thinking it's craziness, and causing some problems until the psychiatrist comes in and proves or convinces, I should say, the husband that his disbelief, while understandable given the culture, is misplaced, and that family finds a way to heal.
Oh.
Whereas the girl, she's just missing a piece of herself. She doesn't know what she's missing. She's just never totally happy. But she's a singer. She likes to sing, and she gets on a national singing show like are prevalent nowadays, and he sees her on there, and I won't tell the rest, but
wow.
There will be a moment where they get together, and suddenly she realizes who she is.
So in other words, these two separate young people, children, I guess, when they both passed away at the same time or different times, but didn't know each other then. Is that correct?
They were married. They were married in the prior life. They had met they were high school sweethearts. They got married, and then they die at a very young age, 26.
Together, in other words?
Yes, together in an automobile accident.
Got it.
Yeah, and so the boys' prediction that they would be able to get back together is tested in the rest of the novel. But and again, one set of parents struggles with it but works through it. Another set of parents has trouble accepting it at all.
Yeah.
Now, how hard was it for you? I mean, you watched the show on TV, and it got you interested in it. I mean, how long did it take you to write the book, and how did all these thoughts come into your brain? I mean, were you interested in the paranormal before this, or is this what got you into the paranormal?
No, this is what got me into it. It was just seeing that Today Show episode, and then I bought Dr. Tucker's book, read about the cases in that book, and then I started reading. I bought Old Souls, which is Tom Schroeder's book about some of Dr. Ian Stevenson's work, and then I started reading some of the articles that they have online, and and it was really interesting. This was my first book, and so it took me 4 months to what I thought was the first draft. I got some really good comments from some good friends who read it and gave me some honest feedback. And then I went to a writers' conference and learned more. And a year later, it was in its final form, ready to go. Now, the second book I've written on this a similar topic, took about 6 months to get to the final form. It's not out yet, but I mean, for me, the story just is so intriguing, and you can go so many different directions with it. But when I get into it, it just kind of writes itself.
Oh wow! Now,
what's the working title of your second book? Do you have a title yet?
I do. Justice After Life.
Oh, very nice.
Go ahead.
Your whole genre here reminds me of the movie, the classic love story time travel movie, Somewhere in Time. Have you ever
right.
that? I just love it where Christopher Reeve, playing Richard, and Jane Seymour playing Elise. He sees a photograph of a woman that lived in about 1910, something like that, and he's of course a modern man, and he falls in love with the photograph, and then just has to go back in time to meet her, and of course they seem to have been star-crossed, lovers and soulmates as well. So, was that any inspiration for you when you wrote your book?
Well, I have seen that a long time ago. I've seen that, and I like that movie. I also liked, there was another movie, I'm trying to remember, but there was another movie where a football player dies, and they take the soul out of the body too soon, and they tell him to go back to the body. And I'm trying to remember the name of that movie too. But
was that 7 Yards with Burt Reynolds?
No, that was Heaven Can Wait.
Yeah,
Heaven Can Wait.
Yeah,
yes,
with Burt Reynolds in it.
And was that Warren Beatty maybe? Or
yes, it was Warren Beatty.
Okay, and so that movie too. I like both of those movies. But again, I didn't really believe it at that point. I was a young kid, and I just I wasn't raised to believe it. I wasn't raised to disbelieve it. But then when I started, again, when I saw that interview with Ryan Hammonds, it really did pique my curiosity. And Night After Night was the movie, and that was a movie with, let's see, Rita Hayworth maybe.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And the guy, Morty Martin, was just an extra, like I said, in the movie.
Yeah, and he, of course, then had a whole lot of information regarding Rita, and I believe that it was corroborated by Miss Hayward's daughter or grandkid, I believe.
Yes. Exactly. Good. You got good memory. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is, Richard, I have got to ask you this question because being a lawyer myself, and I've got a few books up on Amazon as well, I know how I write, the style that I write in, but I know that being a lawyer makes you quite analytical, and you know how we have to, come to the point very succinctly in our briefs and the things that we write. Do you bring your style as a lawyer onto your novel writing, or is it totally different? How do you actually do your writing?
Well, it's totally different in that I'm not writing, for a judge. I'm not writing, so it's different. I'd still say it's analytical. I do try to. That's an interesting question because I come from a family of journalists. My mom and dad both graduated from journalism school at University of Missouri, and my dad was a longtime journalist, and this kind of writing came to me later in life, and but my mother is convinced that my writing in law school helped me find my pen for this type of writing as well somehow. It's not written so that a lawyer would have to read it. It's in that kind of analytical, but you'll see some concepts, especially in Justice After Life. You'll see some concepts where some legal theories have to be explained, but they're not explained in legalese. They're explained in lay terms.
Oh, I love that because in one of my novels, which is a time travel story, had to explain the rule against perpetuities to a lay person that would be reading the book. Can you imagine how that went?
Wow. Oh, wow. That's... you deserve an award for that.
Well, I don't know. You'll have to read it to figure out if it's.
Well, I'll because that one is not necessarily an easy one to explain. But and you think about books out there. I mean, there are there just didn't seem to be a book exactly like my book out there, and this